welcome to another episode of Happy Earth Market Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Natural Awakening, Greater Las Vegas Edition, Love Through Living, Diamondback Land Surveying, Arizona Indian Jewelry, and Bearlanders.com. On this episode, we sit down with Jameson Dargen. He's a builder, entrepreneur, free thinker, and just a really outside-of-the-box guy. I think you're going to enjoy this. We talk about GMOs, police brutality, Fargo, the oil boom, DAPL, the true cost of oil, overpopulation, fungi medicine, and how fungi can help us in all aspects of our life, social media, and much, much more. I hope you enjoy, and take a listen.
There's that one you can use. There's like one of the few others that save your stomach.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so we've been podcasting for like 10 years. It was a comedy talk show music, CTSM, and that was an awesome show. We couldn't do it again. We tried because we're just not those people anymore, you know. But it was a lot of fun. We got to interview all our heroes, and we had a huge, large following, and we just had a ton of fun. And then when we decided to start this business, Happy Earth Market, we started the podcast with it as as an arm of it. Plus, we just missed podcasting, you know.
That's where I'm at. Is for me personally, getting to watch Joe Rogan's podcast evolve and just that format. I mean, if you can have proactive conversation, you can get 3-4 hours, like a full talk. You can actually get through. It's not like newscasting where it's just, here's our little segment, and here's Dalton with the news.
There's a lot to be said for long form conversation because people just don't have it anymore. You know, people are glued to their phones or just too fucking busy, or you know what I mean.
Too busy to live their lives and actually figure anything out.
Connect with people is the thing. You know, it's one of the funnest parts about podcasting for me is the connection.
Yeah, totally.
Sitting across the table. Because this is really just an excuse for us to sit across the table and have a conversation, right?
It's like, instead of just impacting us, it's literally whoever picks it up on the digits.
Right.
Right,
it's like they're sitting here with us.
And it's really fun, too, when you put it up and then you go back a week later and see how many downloads you have. But that's not the fun part. The fun part for me is it has the map of around the world. You're like, holy shit, somebody in Japan listened to this show, and then I can tell how long they listen. I'm like, holy crap, they listen to an hour and a half of us rambling. It's so super rad.
We're coming to that age now too, where it's pretty much instantaneous translation. It's just getting smoothed out, different dialects for tonality and stuff. But let me see
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's fun.
And we are a global culture now. It's just people don't quite realize it yet, and how they use these tools too. It's like, I like the hammer analogy. Do you use a hammer to build a house, or are you hitting yourself in the head with it, or hitting your neighbor in the head with it too? People are like, I got my cat videos, that's my dopamine, or porn, whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of
such a waste of time.
You could learn anything or
everything.
I
know.
And I really hate the question now too. Well, does your podcast have video? No, and I never will. Leave me alone. I like to listen. You know what I mean? I like it's just to get in the car and drive for 3 hours and listen to one show. You know what I mean? And just be immersed in all those ideas and where the conversation goes, and then it comes back, and then it's just so rad. And I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a nice hobby. It's fun. And it's just a great excuse to hang out with people.
Yeah.
Because it's it's easy to say, hey, come over and hang out. Let's talk. But nobody's going to come over and talk. But if you say, hey, let's podcast, then it's like, oh, that's something to do.
Yeah, we had somebody say, because they came over our house and we're just sitting bullshitting. They're like, nobody does this anymore. Nobody just stops by and shoots the shit. There has to be something to do. Or we're watching a movie, or we, X, Y, Z. There always has to be something to do. It's
conditioned for that now. It's always and most of the time they're not even doing one thing at a time, and they end up half-assing 10 things.
Right.
Yeah. We were just talking about that.
Well, nobody's mindful in the one practice they're doing at the moment. They're just so absent-mindedly doing the same habitual crap that they do constantly day in and day out. And it's just it's just numbing. It's just so numbing.
That's also
I'm so glad I'm not
That's the
attached
word.
to that anymore.
That's also the beauty of working here. Like it never, one day is never the
Oh,
same as the
so
next.
cool.
Like and one like we have reoccurring events, and those are never the same. Like there's not been a night where wow this event was almost identical to that last one. It's just never. There's always
No, they're so diverse, and
yeah.
it's funny because we're coming up on. We weren't sure if you were gonna make it to this, so we were like, "Well, we should still podcast. It's on the calendar. Let's do
Let's
it."
do it. Let's throw something down.
So I'm like, "Well, it's coming up on our year since we got the keys to this space, and yeah, it is pretty."
That's awesome. I love the vibe here. I love the people. Like anytime you can just show up and have learn something new, but then it's like just the overall energy. It's like this is a little beacon in this. Vegas reminds me of my hometown in so many ways. It's like extreme weather, a lot of drinking in particular, and a lot of working really hard to maintain those habits.
Where are you from?
Sure.
Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
So number one in the
North
nation.
Dakota.
Like Fargo, like the movie.
Yep, like the movie.
So all there is to
I
do
don't
there
hear
is
any-
work and drink, right?
I don't hear any
Go
accent.
outside and half the year your face hurts. Like we're number one in the nation. Binge drinking, teen drinking, worst weather, and best place to start a business. Like
Weird.
It's a weird environment. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Well,
it helped me make me who I am.
Yeah.
I just kind of didn't really go the route they did, but that ends up making all the difference, I think. But still, I'll always have love for home, so I want to be based out of Fargo as well as Vegas, because it's the way I see it is anything negative is like fertilizer. It's how do you transmute? How do you change it or negate it? And sometimes you gotta do it from a distance, but like there's healing to be done everywhere.
Right.
Like, but then with this place in particular, it's like a launching pad. It's like you can fly all around the world cheap. You can have entertainment sector constantly. You can grow in food all year round.
Yeah.
And there is that growing, whether the more ethical, I guess, food harvesting type aspects. And then freaking, I feel like 5-10 years we'll be able to have like lab grown steak, no problem, you know. And that's another one too. Is all these people are so stressed out. When you're eating, stressed out animals their entire time, you're just eating more cortisol.
We were just having that very conversation yesterday about the karmic implications of eating meat and you exactly. Yeah. I like the stress. Yeah, you're eating stressed meat. And then all the value that you add to that meat, like all the karmic factors you add to that meat, be it the carbon footprint or the unethical way that the animal is raised. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And as soon as, like, I know that I felt better spiritually the day I stopped eating meat. Not to say that I don't still crave it, you know what I mean? Because I do. Like, fuck, I really just want an In-N-Out burger, like, so badly. I just want to hold a double in my hands.
Even the way that they're cultured too, like they'll use estrogen as an antibiotic. So right now we got a population getting stuffed with estrogen all the time. So that's more moody females, more feminine dudes. And it makes it even harder to find that divine balance between the two.
Right. It's purposely manipulated.
You
And
really
our
think
DNA, so because all of the food's DNA has been manipulated, it's manipulated the meat's DNA, and we eat all of it, and that manipulates our DNA, and that's what people fail to realize is that, it's not affecting me because it's on a microdose level, right? Well, that's all you're compounding all the time, that's not a microdose anymore.
Yeah, plus just the amount of meat you're intaking. It's not like, yes, you were biologically, you evolved to eat meat.
Yeah.
But you didn't evolve to eat the amount of meat that you're presented with now. Yeah.
No, and you also didn't evolve to eat anything that has been genetically changed.
Sure.
Like, and that's one of the reasons why GMOs are so terrible, and pesticides and herbicides and all the stuff that we're eating is
mummified from the inside out.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, it's
totally.
not only that, but the food, when our body takes it in and our little gut bacteria says, oh, there's some food, and they try to eat it and it tastes like poison.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's like...
Or even if it does kill our natural probiotics. It's kind of a weird little fact in nature, too, that I don't really hear medical journals talk about it, but when you are born via C-section, you actually don't get to carry on your mother's probiotics. Like during natural childbirth, the mom will actually defecate on the child, and that child will carry the probiotics for the rest of their life. But then even just through antibiotic treatments, too, that can mess it up, too. And really the biggest thing with aging is the inflammation.
Right.
So, I mean, cortisol's an inflammation thing. Obviously, foods that don't coincide with you. Pretty much every type of carb other than fruits and vegetables, like wheat, is like, once we start getting on that, there's little microbarbs that goes through your whole body. You're getting just little tiny cuts over and over again. And then more people are more sensitive to the gluten intolerant people. But thank you. And if you can again, anytime you can remove inflammation, whether through, I think we talked about turmeric last time around, or like that's one of the top 3 in the world, CBD, honestly, doing sauna, doing cryotherapy, then I think what we kind of mentioned, chemotherapy.
I'm really interested in doing cryotherapy.
Yeah.
I want to try it. They just opened up one on Decatur. I think I want to go do it.
One of my good friends here in town, he's actually going back to, he's got a job interview in Alabama to design a cryo tank, and that gave me the idea of why aren't these mobile? Like, if you could be pulling up and getting people that experience, because it doesn't take, it's like 3 minutes in, you take 20 minutes, cool, warm back up, do 3 minutes again. Your entire system just got extremely flushed, and like that immune system, your ability to deal with heat change, and just overall flushing your system.
Is that the one where you stand in the tank and it freezes you?
Yeah.
Fuck that.
You're
I'm
not
not
gonna do
into
it.
that one. I'm not doing that.
So you feel it.
It'll
like,
freeze me to my bone. I'll never get warm again.
She is cold in 110 degrees.
Like, seriously, look at me. I'm dressed in a long sleeve today because I'm always cold, and I don't think I would survive that torture chamber you guys call therapeutic.
No one ever, like...
Come to North Dakota, you'll get over it real quick.
I'm good.
So North Dakota, like, so how large is Fargo? How many people?
So Fargo itself is, I think, about 110,000.
Well, it's bigger than I thought.
It's got, so the campus population is growing pretty quick out there, but then there's West Fargo, South Fargo, which between the two of those, I would say, adds another maybe 50 to 60,000. Then the sister city, Moorhead, Minnesota, is right across the river. And I think that's at another 70,000. But it's growing really quickly. Like, I didn't have traffic growing up there.
Is it growing quickly for oil?
No, actually, the oil pipeline thing, most people are like, oh, you're stopping all these jobs. It made 15 full-time jobs.
Well, I know that, but like we have
Fantastic.
another friend from that area, and like during the oil boom, like it was crazy. Like rent was more expensive up there than it was like here. Like it was insanity.
Well, even the people working at McDonald's are getting paid more than doctors out there, and they get these. There's so much of that wasn't getting told. There's some really good articles online too, especially the ones written by the indigenous, because there's more western North Dakota that the pipeline was at, but then it whooped. Originally, it was supposed to go above Bismarck, but the city voted against it because they didn't want their water potentially poisoned. So they're like, okay, we'll just push it through the native land and like not really ask them. And then, so no environmental impact study was done, which right off the bat means if it's any projects going over state lines, that needs to be done. Just because Trump kicks down the line doesn't mean that just like, no, you're not God Emperor. You're like follow the lessons or like the laws. You know, there's has to be checks and balances. But
that's crazy they got that through because like
it's already leaking.
Yeah, I know it.
It's like
yeah, it was leaking like 6 weeks after it was installed.
I've designed and built cell phone towers in the western region for like 11 years now, and like every single tower that we break ground on that's brand new has to have what's called a NEPA and a SHPO. It's an environmental impact, and if it comes across that area has anything to do with native anything, it stops, and you have to get written consent from that tribe.
Yeah.
Right, and that could take years because they just don't give a shit to answer, and I don't blame them either. They have no obligation to answer us at all. But I that's what like the whole time I'm like, no, there's processes in place. How is this even happening? And they just shit on them like
because
it's crazy.
They don't give a shit. No. They don't give a shit about the native people.
They don't give a shit about any people.
And they don't give a shit about Earth. You know, and all they're looking at is that money.
That's their addiction. Money's not. Why are we not looking at if you're a money hoarder, why is it not considered a mental illness? Like, especially when it's negative.
No, I never thought of it like that. Yeah.
Like, what they did, they literally were told, here are burial grounds. The same day or the next morning, they go and plow right through because they had a clause in the contract, for like a riot clause, to extend their contract. We still didn't get violent. It was like you're going through people's ancestors' lands, like. There's bones getting smashed up right now.
They don't care.
Well, they've done it here too, you know.
And when I say they, I'm not talking about humans. It's the thing that, you know, a lot of people are under the assumption that these businesses are run by human beings, and they're not. They're run by people who are called investors. And these investors are humans, yes, but they work for an overall big-ass umbrella of a bunch of different people. And they go and they basically go in and they tell all the people who are in charge of the company, hey, the projected number that we want and expect next quarter is X amount of money.
Make it happen.
Do it. Make it happen.
Put this put your heart in the freezer and go do it.
Because if not, there's consequences. And so, you know, at that point, then all the people in charge of the corporation are in a really shitty position, really, because they're in charge of human beings
on both sides.
who are slaves,
Yes.
and they have to, because they're getting paid a really good salary, they have to, by obligation, answer to the investors. And so this whole game, the investors aren't looking at the employees. They're not looking at any of the ecological damage that needs to be done for the money to be made.
There's no ecological damage on the spreadsheet.
They literally don't care about anything because all they see are numbers on a screen. That's
exactly.
all they see, literally. And so, you can't equate a number on a screen to an oil, bursting in water and people dying from drinking the water. It doesn't relate, and so...
That's what I like what that's what I like what I forget the guy's name, but he was talking about like everything that we have, everything should come with the true cost, right? And then things would change.
Like, what is the total impact from what if we do this way? What's going to be the consequences? And the man camps, like, yes, they're making crazy money out there, but that just meant a lot of young, especially indigenous women, end up either throw her some money and then she starts selling herself through that way, or she just gets stolen. Like they're like the reservations have the worst of every statistic of poverty ever. It's terrible. You go in there and it's like there's pictures all over. Live to become an elder. Stop doing meth and drinking. It's like, okay, that's what your message is, just for people traveling through. So to be growing up in that, and I mean concrete walls everywhere. It's like. It's just an evolved prison camp.
And it's crazy because that's like, if citizens of the United States knew and saw it, they would, I hope, they would be like, holy shit, not in my country. I'm a patriot American, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but even when Standing Rock was going on, and we would bring it up in certain circles a bit, you always get that, God, they're going to talk about this shit again.
Well, I think they feel deep down that they're not. Like, at the end of the day, my suffering is your suffering. My triumphs are your triumphs. It all echoes out. But then they're like, no, I'm not connected to that. I don't associate with that. Well, it's like, people are willing to do it to one group. You're just coming down the line. I mean, history's always shown that. And the compartmentalization, the corporatization, like, you might not be seeing the direct effects, but I mean, you go to Oklahoma right now. They didn't have earthquakes before. Now they started fracking. Now they're getting like 300 a year.
Right.
Is that ban still on effect, or are they refracking?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they've lifted it yet.
Because my son's in Oklahoma, and we were talking about that. And when we were out there a year ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago now, they had like, oh shit, what's going on, and stopped it. So I hope that's still true, but I don't know. But we have a friend that the guy I was just talking about, big in the oil industry, has basically lived off of oil rig work his whole adult life.
Argued with us a lot on Standing Rock. He was
like, no, you guys don't know what's going on.
Jobs.
And so fast forward to this year, and Trump lifting a lot of the environmental regulations and filing all his executive orders to do so. He goes back out to West Texas to a friend of his that owns a bunch of rigs. And now they're doing this fracking, and before, like, the fracking that he was doing was done, but at least it was under a lot of regulations and slightly clean and all this stuff. And he described this complete apocalyptic, horrible scene.
Dead animals on
the side of the road, and they're dead because they're pushing this nasty water, and the water has to go somewhere, right? And before they had to push it in and bring it right back out, or something like that. I don't understand the whole.
It's a ton of salt. A lot of it is too.
But now it's just pushing it down into these water tables, and it doesn't stay there, and it gets pushed down. And it's coming back up in the water table, and all these animals are drinking and dying. There's literally oil pushing up out of the ground, and all these animals are dying. And then they dig these rocks out, and then I don't know, just all this death that he described. He's like, he can't go back. Yeah. He's like, I don't care what I have to do here in Vegas. He's like, he was almost in tears. He's like, Sam, now I hear what you're saying. Enough's enough. It's not worth it.
Because he was describing flying over, looking at all, because before it was at least clean land, like the dirt, you could see soil. He said flying over now, it looks like farm patches, like the square patches of different colored oil mud.
Green and death.
Different
colored. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
It's the lifeblood of the plant. Like, that is the lubricant for the plates. When that's not there, they start smashing each other. What's going to happen in the middle of North America and freaking North Dakota?
It's going to be a blast.
Oh, I wish for it all the time. Just Mother Earth's just, you know what, enough's enough. Because at some point you got to realize that you're the parasite, and
they're just going to be fine. It's like, are we going to be able to stick around?
No,
Like,
maybe. And I think that, I've done a lot of thinking on that, especially under the massive amounts of marijuana. And I'm like, you know what? What's probably going to happen to the human race, and I hope for it, is that, it just, a pandemic or epidemic or some huge ecological disaster wipes out enough of us that we're back to a level that's sustainable. Because, if we also look at it, like we always talk about, well, we need to do population control on animals, right? So why? I hate to sound morbid, but at approaching 8 billion, and once you approach 8 billion, it just starts to flip and flip and flip so quickly. It'll be 20 billion before we know it, and that's just too much for the Earth to sustain. So at some point, it can't sustain it, so it's going to have to do something to re-regulate. The organism of Earth's going to re-regulate
And it will.
itself.
It always does. That's the
absolutely.
thing. It always has a way of surviving whatever it has on it, growing on it. You know what I mean? It's an organism just like we are, and it is a matter of time. And I had a wish a long time ago that, like, maybe it's going to be some deadly virus that just wipes out the planet, and the only people immune to it are the pot smokers and the mushroom takers. You know what I mean? That way at least the globe is going to be loved and safe, and everybody's going to be kind to each other, and we all get it.
You mentioned earlier about like how our foods are affecting our DNA. And I've just had so many conversations where, like, when you're aware of a thing, then when you understand it, you're not fearing it. I think we have so much more control over our bodies.
Absolutely.
And we can actually, we've never been exposed to radiation before.
Right.
And
Sure.
Yet, I think when we're aware of the process of it, and I think we're already evolving subconsciously. Obviously, the body wants us to keep going. Our heart keeps beating whether you tell it to or not. But yeah, I would say the use of plant medicine and fungi medicine, those are our elders. So it's like we're more close out of all the kingdoms to fungi.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love there's a saying that, like a real life example of, in Tokyo, they had the top engineers in the world design their subway system. And then it was like 20, 30, 40 years later that they brought in, for an experiment, they brought in a bunch of fungi on either ends of it, and they wanted to find a more efficient route. So they just have a bunch of wood chips, all the food for the fungi. So then initially, they eat the food, but then they spread outward, but almost like a chaotic, all-around kind of exploratory kind of way. But then they came back, and within 28 hours, they found a better route than our top engineers in the world.
It's amazing.
Wow.
In 28 hours.
I'm going to have to read about
amazing.
that.
It's cellular intelligence. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
If you were to apply that, though, to where we are as a species, it's like, when we go out, maybe we're just in that chaotic exploratory rate, because before order, there has to be chaos. So it's like, right now we're just finding ourselves collectively. And so once we find ourselves individually, and we finally can be mindful, that's doing the simple things right. Are you drinking enough water? You got your posture right? You're using your body right? You breathing deeply enough? Are you in a conversation not to respond, but to listen, to understand? And most people, especially, like, they're just constantly buzzing. They got too much buzzing going on. And none of that stillness to actually be able to
be present.
Yeah, to psychologically digest what's being brought to you. And
there's a lot of social issues around that too. I mean, there's media in general and family. Everything plays a huge role in our ego, and our ego has a way of just being so loud and boisterous that it doesn't allow us time to hear anything else.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? We have to say our point to feed our ego, which, has been fed to us for a very, very long time.
It was a thing we evolved, and now it's, with all these tools right now, we have all these things to amplify it, so we can get, and if you got, I like to think of the brain as a dozen different organs at least. But I mean, if you're only working on one arm all the time, like, the rest of your body's going to be out of balance. If you're only working on one aspect of your processes, everything else is going to be out of balance. And we got a mind, we don't need to be thinking all the time. We got legs, don't need to be sprinting all the time.
It's okay to be still. Yeah, it's totally okay to be still and be.
That's necessary.
Oh, it's absolutely necessary.
Like,
If I miss Monday meditation, I feel horrible all week.
Like, yoga, meditation, if you get 20 minutes in at least a day.
Walking without your, like, I see everybody running with their headphones on and all that. Like, just, dude, don't. Go for a walk and let it run. Let your brain just run.
Be with Earth. Go hear the wind go through the trees or wherever you're at. Listen to the dogs barking as you run by. It's all important stuff. You're missing out on the life experience.
Every single moment is a completely unique one. It's like, but if you're not appreciating that, you're not appreciating your life to its full capacity.
Right.
Totally.
There's always beauty to be seen. If you can tap into that, again, I think long-term, your cellular processes, however you want to look at it, from a spiritual angle, from a biological one, you'll have a better life. And that spreads out to everywhere around you. And, like, that, I love the metaphor for, like, our conscious processes, our ego, again. It's, like, our idea of who we are, what we're doing. What, again, even how accurate is that? I think you're most yourself when you're not thinking.
Right.
Like when you have, like, the level of seriousness of a child at play. So it's like our conscious process part of our brain's like maybe 10%. The rest of it's unconscious, 90%. So it's like we got a bike pulling our car all the time and we're wondering why we're burning out. It's like,
Right.
it's
No,
like,
exactly.
That's a great analogy.
Exactly. It's just a waste of breath. I feel like most of us are walking around wasting our breath. You know, including myself. I'm not speaking of anyone. I'm speaking of my own experience. You know, most times I am just wasting my breath and not actually experiencing my life.
But that's the first step, is be aware of that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, if I do 10% more today, then 10% more tomorrow, it's like, within a month's time, if I keep that one habit, and then I'm not even thinking about it, and then it's like...
Practice makes better.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I grew up the most perfectionistic dude ever, but now I changed my definition to perfection is progress, progress is perfection. It's like, I'm only trying to beat the guy from yesterday. And if I don't, all right, well, I'll try to beat him tomorrow. Like,
Right.
Again, the social media egoism, narcissism aspect, it's part of, it's again, that, I had a meme on that where, you know, he's looking at his own reflection and said it's a phone, you know? Like, how many people is that right now? It's like, it's
I can't take it anymore, man. That's why I took Facebook off my phone and all that, because one of the defining moments of me doing that is I was sitting outside Samantha's mom's house having a cigarette, and this kid walked by, and I don't know, he had to have been 17 at the most, and he never looks up from his phone, and he's walking, and his spine had a curve in it, so he could look at his phone in this arch fashion, and maybe that's not what it's from. Maybe that he has something wrong with his spine, but that's what it looked like. You know what I mean? And it was a zombified state, and I was like, man, no, get off of my, like, literally the only reason I even have social media anymore is for this store. Otherwise, I would be out, because it had taken up too much of my life, and I wasn't present at all in anything. Like, I was just stuck on that. Like,
It's an addiction, man. Like,
for sure.
Seriously, it's an
Get that little,
yeah.
but it's never enough to, like, actually really meet happiness. There's 5 different neurochemicals. Dopamine is just one of them. Like, we are, I like the saying, we're disconnected at the eyes, but connected at the pocket. Like, we need to get back to, like, we grew up around fires. We grew up around, like, going on hunting and gathering, walk 23 miles a day, make stuff with our hands. We've gone away from that.
We fell down and got hurt.
Yeah.
You know, nobody gets hurt anymore, like, really, because they're being careless, goofing off. That's a shame, I feel. I feel it's a shame. We should have bumps and bruises and scratches on us from horseplay and fun, you know, goofing off.
I was the shyest kid ever. I go out to a show, and now I'm the one dancing. And, like,
That's
why is everyone else not dancing? It's like, life is meant to be lived. A dance is meant to be danced. What are y'all doing, you know? It's like, no one's going to go home and put their head on the pillow and be like, wow, that one dude is dancing like an idiot. Or, like, even if they were, it's like, that dude is so happy when he was dancing.
Either way, they're going to be smiling, right? If they're laughing at or with, it doesn't matter.
Like,
they're
that's
happy.
good medicine. Laughing is good medicine.
Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. That's what I love about going to and seeing open mics, man. You know what I mean? Like, man, I see people put so much energy, like, they have put so much into that. It's like their little Super Bowl, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing to watch.
I love our open mic and watching the comics go up, because they're just like, okay, I'm going to try. We've had a lot of first-timer comics. Like, this is the first time I've done my stuff in front of people.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, they're just all sweaty, and they go up there and they, you know, do all right or whatever, and it's just
but they get that one laugh.
fun to watch them. Like, when they get that laugh, and they're just like, you can just see their, you know, insides grow, and like, I did it. I made somebody laugh with my suffering, because they always make fun of their own suffering.
That's transmuting it.
Funny.
Yep. That's transmuting it.
I know I'm late, but I have a really important question. My name is Brenda, and I've been reading a lot about 5G and the towers, you know, that they're building with the 5G. And,
well, you came to the right place.
What it's going to do to our, what it might already be doing to our brains.
Okay.
And our children.
So first of all, it's already doing it to it. It's radiation going through your head if you have your phone up to your head. You have about 43 dBms, which is decibels, blasting through your head every single time you put that phone to your head. And so that's information and radiation going through your head. It's a radio frequency. 5G isn't going to be any different radiation. It's actually going to be a lower power that they're going to use. The only thing that 5G is going to be is they're going to be collecting metadata constantly and then retransmitting it. Like once 5G comes out, you'll be able to drive by a billboard, and what you were just searching on Google will show up on that billboard. So, but there will be no difference.
So the difference, though,
But
I disagree.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
The difference is once they release the super band, which is the 600 megahertz and 400 megahertz, which we're transmitting in right now anyways, but that's only for public safety. Once the cellular carriers get a hold of the 600 to 500 to 600 band, so they're going to be able to blast a lot harder and a lot further with a much less power. So there will be some difference, but there's always been fear of cell phone signals fucking things up, and they have, there's no denying it. But per the Supreme Court ruling, we're not allowed to say that can happen.
Well, what I was going to say is it is different in the fact that it is going to be blasting. It goes back to that whole compound thing. Mm-hmm. The radiation's only hitting us when we're using our phone, but now with 5G, it's going to be constantly sending and receiving, even when we're not using it, just so when we open our phone, the right advertisement's going to match what's in front of us. It'll be like 1984 when they were walking by all the screens, and it was like, it's just like that.
I have an
Amazon. Creepy.
I have an Amazon Alexa. And I had her next to my bedside, and I use her just for music because I'm a vocalist and whatever. And I had my iPad, and I found something on YouTube about, and it had like one of the little dots there, and it was talking about unplug your Alexa and your dots and everything, and then it gave an explanation. I didn't even get into the explanation, but my Alexa talked to my computer and said, I don't know what you're talking about.
But you didn't say it?
He was talking. But it was like he was talking to my computer.
I would never have one of those things in my house.
Oh, no.
I feel like this thing picks up more than I care to it as well. Like,
your phone?
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's one of the companies I want to start for Planet Plus One is like, one, I think if you want to be able to wipe yourself digitally from the current level of the internet, you should be able to. So a company that does that, but also another, I want to start an app that, because it's physically impossible to read all the contracts we were given. Like, to read through them all, it's literally like 90 years on average.
It's like legal jargon that you don't understand anyway, right?
But to have an app that can just simplify that into like 10 bullet points is like, okay, well, even if you're not using our app, we can take your audio and try to sell you stuff. It's like, well, what else are you doing with that? I don't know. It's like, if I was to be putting my head in someone's mailbox all the time, I'd go to jail. Why is this guy in my pocket?
Why is this legal? Right.
Yeah, so it's like we need to have more of a common sense approach and like, this is a tool, yes, but if that tool is either putting me or my family at risk or invading my being, like doing a psychological profile on me, I don't consent to that.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy because even this conversation right here,
even
this conversation right here, if let's say for argument's sake one of us was to do something stupid or the government decided you were a threat, they can use all this against you and be like, look, he was talking about all this craziness and you know what I mean, and they do it all the time so that they can paint a picture of somebody very easily. And I know I sound paranoid, but
take everything out of context.
It's very easily.
Pick it, they'll twist it.
Yep.
I just think if we have the technology to record it, we have the technology to imitate it. So it's like, I'll bring that up. It's like, I don't know if you're bringing up real crimes or whatnot.
Yeah.
You can look at what I'm putting all my daily time towards, and that's Planet Plus One. How can we help? 7 branches of life.
Right.
Like food, water, shelter, education, medicine, community, and creativity. If we tap into that, everyone's not stressed out anymore. Everyone's got their bare needs met. And then they can finally feel safe. And back to, we don't have a sense of community anymore. Standing Rock was the first true time I felt I had a home, a community.
How long were you there?
4.5 months. November to, I was the last guy arrested out there, February 23rd.
Where was that?
Very middle of North Dakota, on the Standing Rock Reservation.
Why were you arrested?
So they gave me, I was arrested twice, once after Martin Luther King Day, and this was on a public highway where they put up an illegal barricade to economically sanction illegally the Cheyenne River Sioux, because their only breadwinner for their 9 districts was this casino. So the casino went from 400,000 in the black to 200,000 in the red because of that. And this is on a state highway. So I got arrested on a state highway, and they got barbed wire everywhere. They got private military. I mean, the guys that used to be Blackwater, that got shut down. Well, a lot of them went to Tiger Swan. So, I mean, and a lot of their messages got intercepted. They wanted to beat us up with bats. And there was definitely friction between the law enforcement and them and trying to get everything. They just wanted us out of there. But across the other side of the highway was treaty territory. Both there's the 1851 and 1868 treaties of Fort Laramie. So, I mean, even just, and they're already parked on treaty land up on top burial mounds with Humvees, lights on us. They eventually put the lights on us, so it was like a psychological terror kind of thing. I mean, we're getting hit with, there was a few nights where I would be up late at night. That was my thing, and I'd sleep through about 1 o'clock or so. Then I would cut wood 4 hours a day, and then I'd work on my projects. A lot of that was digging up tents because some people from Cali decided to bring some summer tents, and someone will use a jacket. But, I mean, it was however we can help each other. My dad had just passed, so it was like me going there was originally just gonna be 3-4 days, and then go see my mom in Florida. But it was like I could just keep showing up and asking how could I help, and then I'm meeting elders from all these different communities all over the world. And then I've mostly done construction, so I was like, after 2 weeks of that, I was like, why not learn every other aspect of building communities? I did everything but cooking by the time it was over.
That's rad.
And clean water.
Yes, and we're all just we had our own water purification stuff. We had water trucks. I mean, it was like even if by the end of it, there were 600 flags being flown there. That's never happened in the history of our species, and that's coming together mostly for people that aren't even alive yet. And like what people do on Black Friday when they're not getting their TV they wanted, they'll stomp another person out. What are they going to do when their kid doesn't have clean water or food? It's like 16 million people are connected to that water that goes in the Mississippi, and it's like most of them are like reservations. So it's like if they don't have that, they're screwed. It's like they have to become hostile to save their people. Like, but the whole time we remained peaceful, and the people that weren't got kicked out.
Well, in Venezuela, I mean, that's a good example right there.
My mom was actually born in Caracas.
I'm sorry?
My mom was born in Caracas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so her heart's hurting on that. And that's, again, what the Planet Plus One, the idea of building ecopreneurship's right from the beginning. 20% of that business goes towards solve a problem. Like whether Venezuela needs more media coverage, whether they need just sustainable food. By this point, is like from the point at Standing Rock, I was like, if I had all the money in the world, all the tools in the world, what would I be building? No limitation. So my solution to that is smart hard farms. Allow them to be able to feed themselves with least amount of water needed, most fully organic, and growing vertically with LEDs. And then it's like it's all in a timer. It's all using just the perfect amount of whatever what you're making, and it's so scalable and it's modular too. And building walls out of recyclables. They can be tiny homes. They can be tiny trailers. They can be floating houses. They can be warehouses. So then, especially if you're getting paid to pick up recycling, it's like, but each of those branches grows, the base grows, each of those branches stem off into different entrepreneurships, those bear fruit or flowers, whether through art or physical products, and then it keeps, and then at the same time too, I wanted to ask your thoughts on this too, but have you heard of interplanetary file system?
I don't believe so. You heard of that thing?
It's about a dozen or so really awesome computer science ideas that right now we're working on, like the internet from pretty much 20 years ago. It's pretty much updated once for a little bit of security. It's HTML5. But IPFS is a system. They also made a cryptocurrency called Filecoin, where it's actually you get paid for using your storage as opposed to like running algorithms really fast. I mean, we got all these old phones. I mean, they might as well be converted to something more useful, you know. But they're working on several projects, and I hope to have them on the podcast too, because I'd love to talk more on it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ideas like torrenting. So like we're trying to get it, like we're in a classroom right now, there's 30 kids, we're trying to all get the same video. That video has to go all the bandwidth from wherever it's being stored at, from like the IP address, the server, as opposed to one person gets it and then it's dispersed right there and throughout the room to 30. So it's way more efficient.
Just
and
like
then
a
it's
stream
saved. Yeah, it's saved based on the like a torrent. Yeah, and it's
no, that's exactly what some of the beauties of 5Gs and the updated systems be, especially for indoors, right? So let's say take a stadium, right? And actually T-Mobile Arena already has this system. So take a stadium and one person downloads, like say they're the hockey player's doing something, like, oh, how do you do in his rookie season? And downloads a statistic. Well, statistically, like so many people want to download that same thing just because that's how people are, you know what I mean? So then that first person downloads it and the server on site caches it, and then so now the next person is almost downloading it in real time. It's just gonna come like that. And what that does what that does is two things. Is it causes a much less strain on the system, so that more people can upload on their social media and all that stuff and let people know that they were at the game.
I'm living life.
So they can miss out on it.
And then at
the
end of the game, when the game's over, that system just flushes it. Like it's just okay.
Very funny. My daughter went to West Tech. It's the last stop before Red Rock, right? She went there 3 years, and could never make a phone call because T-Mobile doesn't have a tower out there.
Nobody has service out there.
And there are many homes.
Yeah, I understand.
Why is that? Are they waiting to build the 5?
Because the homeowners don't want it.
No. Number one, the homeowners. The homeowners in the Red Rock area have repeatedly said, "Don't build here, not in my backyard."
Oh.
Number two is that it's Red Rock. So once you get up around Red Rock, unless you're on those areas which are only homes, you can't build a tower because it's protected land. It's not possible.
Okay.
So that's it.
Protected for now.
What would a solution be? Bring like fiber optics underground?
So what? That's funny because I'm just working on that right now. I just did all the surveys this week to put it in. So there is the telephone poles that are out there. We're doing what they call small cells, which is just a small cellular site that's connected to a telephone pole, and it covers, depending on the size of the small cell, 30 to 300 people in an area, and we'll put 50 or 60 of those in a neighborhood, those huge like neighborhoods, but you'll never know the difference when you drive by. It'll still just look like a telephone pole to you.
Well, the funny thing is the school was sponsored by Google.
What?
Yes, it was the first school in the country
sponsors
that
schools?
Google sponsored.
Well,
You know they don't have recess at school anymore? Did you hear that?
Yeah. Well, more importantly, they don't have recess in kindergarten, and kindergarten is now all day long in Las
They
Vegas.
need it.
It's a 7-hour kindergarten.
I can't believe it. I'm like, what are we doing?
Unbelievable.
Why would we not have recess for these little
My
kids?
daughter was ADHD, and she needed that recess to calm herself down.
Yeah, kids
So they
need
would
to run around.
Punish her like if she didn't finish her homework. She couldn't go to recess, so they're working against her.
Why are we not involving a psychologist perspective in our education? Because it's like, or even a neurology one, it's like, we learn better when we're having fun, when we're laughing and smiling.
Yeah, those are the first, my daughter just started college, and those are her first 2 classes.
I think
psychology.
I think honestly that we haven't let go of the Puritan punishment style of teaching. You know what I mean? Because that was you don't obey, smack. You know what I mean? Even though we can't smack people anymore, or they don't smack people anymore, but that's still the mentality that if you don't obey, you're punished, or your parents are punished. When really, we really need to be rethink. So now we live in a completely different age than any of our ancestors even imagined. So now we need to rethink the whole system. Really, I mean, honestly, we should just be crumpling up the paper, throwing it out, and starting over. But then you can't. You can't stop this flow. This thing that already exists, you know what I mean? And then you get the people, well, you can't fucking change it, you know what I mean? So there is a lot of angry idiots. There is a lot of schools right here in Las Vegas that are trying to change education and across the country right now. But like any kind of change, it's slow.
I think homeschooling is becoming more and more popular, and it's a good thing for a lot of reasons. Number one, the kids are going to get better education, but number two, the mom gets to stay home and take care of the kid, or dad, whatever.
Yeah. Or having the balance between the two.
Man, it's beautiful, right? Because that's how families are supposed to be run. Is you're supposed to have somebody taking care of shit at the house, because that's a job by itself.
That's a huge job, yeah,
that's
exactly.
such a big job.
I'm disabled, and I can't get anybody to come in and help me. It's like, I know that there are people out there that want to work, but I need somebody like 2 days a week just to come in and keep up with the little things.
Yeah.
It's hard to find somebody.
It's a hard job. It's a hard job, and especially back to the homeschooling though, I mean, this gives families an opportunity to actually be a family. You know what I mean? It's like really cool.
And raise their kids. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Instead of having somebody else raise them. I mean, that was the craziest thing I just heard on the news this week that daycare costs as much as college in Las Vegas.
Yeah. It's true.
I couldn't believe it.
$1,400
It's forcing poverty. And
absolutely.
The angry people, it ties right in with idiocracy. Because it's like when you're more stressed, you are literally burning your brain cells.
Really?
Yeah, the stress is the biggest amplifier of both aging and ages more.
Stressing makes you dumb, people. Did you hear that?
And and on top of that too, and poverty. People in poverty have a lower, it's not because they're doing anything different, it's like what's resources available, whether it's the crappier food, whether it's the more perpetual stress.
They're more stressed.
But it drops their IQ 12 points.
Yeah, isn't
That's
that nuts?
huge.
It's nuts.
So, I mean, the historian's solution to that was literally universal income. Like, people are not going to just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to go buy X amount of drugs now that I got this extra money. No, it's like, take care of your base needs, and now you can sleep a little better at night, because you're not like, we're not out there fighting bears or rival tribes anymore. Like, our biology's still made for that, but now it's like, I got to hit this imaginary number in a computer so I have a shelter. It's like...
Yeah, and they make it really hard to get food stamps.
Yeah.
I got $15 a month for my daughter and I. So we're just going to save it up, you know, and then go. I mean...
I thought they expired at the end of the month.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
They did when we...
Really?
Yeah.
Because the lady told me, she said, you might want to just let it build up.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, because when we were on food stamps when we first got married...
21 years
21
ago.
years.
Yay.
Jesus.
Was it a card? Did you get
No,
a...
this was actual food stamp vouchers. Yeah,
Back in the day when it was
But that's a sad thing too, right? Like, so do you think that anybody in the military should be on food stamps?
Absolutely.
You think that anybody you do think people in the military should be on food stamps? Okay. So they shouldn't get paid enough to live on.
If they don't have enough to live on, they should get food stamps.
Oh no, they should, but they shouldn't have to.
Yeah, go
to that.
route.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I mean, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I had to twist my brain around a little. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and
no, that's
and what sucks, so you know, you're barely making anything when you're a young private in the Army, and we first got married, and then we get food stamps, and then we have to deal with the judgment. You know, people give us like, man, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't afford to feed my family on this little bit of money you're giving me, and now when I go to the commissary to buy the food, I have to deal with your dirty looks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Right, exactly. Like, believe me, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm just as ashamed as you are.
That's one of the reasons why every kind of judgment exists, is because it's a class thing.
Totally.
We are always judging lower class, lower than ourselves class. And
or what
it's
we deem as,
so lame.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we're all human beings, and you know what? It takes us, you're one paycheck away. Or one house getting burned down away, or one car accident away, or one anything away from having some lower class issues, you know, and you really should not judge people without money, because it's just fucking money. It's not even real anyway.
It's,
you know, it doesn't add any value to our beings.
It's none of our business
it's
what
just
their
supposed to
money
be a
is.
tool.
You
That's
know,
It is a tool. That's all it's for.
But again, it's been put up on this pedestal. It's like, this is your measurement of how well you're helping. They don't think of it as a tribe, but how much are you helping the tribe? When in reality, the person with the most money probably fucked over the most people.
Exactly. That's why it's got the most money.
I just want to cook.
Yeah. I think it honestly goes back to the Celtics, the Celtoi, and the Romans. So the Celts were professional soldiers. They were nomadic people, but they coincided with nature. Like, their symbol were the Druids were their intellectual class, and their symbol were the oak seed, oak tree, as well as the rowan tree. And I believe they really started from, they were the ones that branched the furthest away from the village, and they went out and thought, oh, you can make bread out of oak seeds. Sweet. Now my people can work, I mean, you can make so many other things out of it. Like, it became a representation of strength and connection. And then that evolved over so many years. Like, Europe used to be Keltanica. 600 BC, 800 BC, it was like, they were just nomadic. They got along with everywhere they went, and they weren't raping and pillaging. But they were still like professional soldiers compared to the Spartans. But then they go to war with the Romans, and they're actually winning that war. And then Julius Caesar does a surprise attack on the capital. King Vercingetorix of the Celts, he was given the option, either watch your people starve to death because they cut off all the resources, or give us your king. He gave himself up. He gets tortured for the next 5 years and then quartered. And that right there, that moment, I think, that act of sacrifice, I think it has to come full circle. And I think we're at that point now. But we went from that circle of empowerment where, like, we can work with each other synergistically, and instead it was a circle of domination of how can I screw over my neighbor for my people to survive. And that comes back to ego. That comes back to fear. Like, greed is, we can never feed enough greed. It never ends. But our needs are pretty easily met by the planet. He'd mentioned earlier that maybe we do need to do population control ourselves. I don't think so. I think there's way more opportunities. We haven't really gone subterranean. We haven't gone truly into space exploration. We haven't gone into living underneath the water if we wanted to, or on the water. Little fun fact, if you can, you can have a houseboat out in Florida and it's $200 a year. So I mean,
What?
that's a way to cut your costs and live a pretty solid life too. But how many other places could we be doing that at? And then especially if we can get into getting paid for recycling and then building these mobile houseboat trailers, like so many options. But that idea of the circle of empowerment where you create situations where everybody wins. Maybe not the person that holds the old system, but they're not happy. Otherwise, they would not stop. Like, they're always, I need my next yacht, or I need to get to that level, buy this country.
What's funny is
void?
people think they're buying it to fill the void. Rich people buy shit to avoid tax.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. No, seriously. Like we had a friend that went from having a little tiny underground utility company to, holy crap, he has more work than to do, and his accountant's like, go buy toys. You know what I mean? Go buy boats. Go buy. He had to buy all this stuff because it's all a tax write-off. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Instead, and then because you only gift so much and still be a tax write-off, right? So that's what happens, man. It's crazy. That's why rich people buy so much stuff. I got 15 houses in 4 different countries because it's a fucking tax write-off.
Yeah. And none of that really goes back to the collective. At least something helpful.
Yeah.
Like,
I never knew that.
Yeah, buy a co-op farm.
Or something.
Yeah.
Invest in some
That's our plan
homeless
B, by the way.
shelters or something. Do something with your money.
If this store falls through, we're jumping in an RV and we're going to farm across the United States back and forth.
Good.
well, speaking of the farming aspect, I don't know if a tree taught me this, but at least trying to understand a tree sitting underneath one. But for my business cards for Planet Plus One, I want to be able to sell them to people for $1. Why? Because I'll be making them out of recycled plastic. On one side have the logo, on the other side have a number. That number is going to correspond to a real tree that will be planted, as well as a digital one. So think MySpace, but now you have a digital tree. You bring in Google Maps. Now you can walk around that tree as it's progressively growing. And you can even add the augmented reality aspect of VR. And then at that point, your own personal tree can be what you want to sponsor your company. Do you want to do an online class? So back to the homeschooling aspect, this would allow you to make your own curriculum of teachers our parents feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, have your own little avatar, have your own little micropayment thing, and every $1 the company raises, that'll plant a tree, or 10 hemp plants, or a box of
Jameson, that's a great idea.
That's an idea that I already
We're going to steal it on some aspect.
I mean, I'm sending it out there to be used.
It's not a steal.
And that's what I love.
It's a gift.
That's what I love about the internet. Is that it has changed people's mind in the fact that they don't hold on to ideas so hardly anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is my idea. If you fucking take it. No, people are like, no, this is totally open source. So if you want to take this Tesla and make it better, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love the, you know what I mean? I love the open sources. And it has ruined a lot of industries, but it has advanced things in such a faster way. Like, I don't know how to put it. Just at light speed because of it.
It's given a better alternative, and that's what I see Planet Plus One doing. Is literally all those 8 branches can be now brought into accessibility. Because again, today's day and age, we're getting more and more phones. We're probably like over 4 billion phones now out there, or people active on them. And then with the IPFS, which is going to be the permanent network of the permanent internet. So by utilizing that right off the bat, it's saving all the bandwidth costs. It's making everything way more interconnected. And then I want people to have a social media site where you control the algorithm, where you can filter things through. Like, if somebody throws in $10,000 to make, whether they want to make their own forest or they make their own one giant tree, whatever, and then you can filter it out. So like, all right, this message is now getting heard that much more. You know what? I'm tired of seeing that one. I'll turn that off on because the website I want to be simple. Have 4 functions, and that's have a globe, have an internal tree inside of it, and the entire thing can be interactive, and I'd love to see Google Maps be integrated, and I'm pretty sure they already have add-on aspects for it. But with each of those digital trees being planted, have a little dot, have a little zoom in to be able to see that tree, and be able to have your own space. And then with that filtration aspect, you're finally not getting caught up into all the negative news constantly. You're not getting, and it's none of Facebook's BS too. Like, after I did my rooftop thing, I had like 100,000 people watch that video that day, and for like the next week, I got to see me getting censored more and more. It's like a venue that you're a band, and they keep cutting the mic out on you. Like, why am I here for? I'm not here for that. No, I'm here to speak my truth. That's it.
Right.
Whereas this will be, decentralized. This will be open source. You want to teach somebody how to fix this kind of car? Sweet, post that on your tree. Have a hashtag fixing my Honda, you know, like.
I've noticed on Facebook at least that and I don't know the situation of this post you're talking about, but I've noticed that any post that does well organically starts to get tightened down. If I didn't pay for anything, they're like, nope.
No, yeah, exactly. That's their business model. What I'm saying, if we provide a better one, all right, the partner of Planet Plus One, 60% goes towards you, helping you take care of your family. 20% goes towards what's a humanitarian cause that's good for everyone. Help the local homelessness, help train a police officer to be able to train in women in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. And then 20% back towards the base of the tree. So it never changes.
Right.
And then with that base of the tree, my needs are pretty low. I'm like $600 to $800 a month, maybe.
That's great.
Like, so I mean, I'm okay to travel. I don't even got a dog at this point. I was gifted one to Standing Rock that I'd love to pick up at some point, but she's happy over at a White Earth reservation. And so I mean,
cool.
And then being based out of Fargo and here, and then the most valuable thing that taking that stand on the roof, because I live streamed a full militarized raid. Helicopters flying around, I got snipers on me, but I'm having a conversation just like this. It's like, if I go out today, I go out today, but I go out like knowing what I did was right here.
Doing it, yeah.
And now it's like that connected me to, it was like 2,000 friends in a day. Like I'd much rather have that than a bunch of money, because it's like those are connections. Those are real people that followed that struggle. And now it's like, with the sacred fire might have gone out there, I think it would just spread everywhere. And now it's like, let's bring more sacred fires. What prayer do you want answered?
Absolutely. Standing Rock was amazing. I'm so grateful that it happened. I mean, the connectivity and the unity that it created, and the love that it created, and the awareness back to Earth that it created, and
exposing
them.
This is it. We weren't just talking shit.
It
really is this way.
I mean, I know that. Yeah, it wasn't in vain. It was not in vain, because so much great stuff has happened because of that, and people have completely changed. They went there because they felt a calling, and they came back a completely 100% different human being.
That community
doing it different now, and it's powerful.
Being in nature that heals you. It healed me.
Yeah.
I think so many people their whole life, they're holding on to something from their past that's weighing them down, that's hurting them, blinding them, trying to grab at something in front of them. They're never both hands here right now. Never have that mind, heart, and I think hand interconnectedness. If we can do that, I love this quote that came up on a video the other day she's a philosopher as well as a physicist. Very articulate lady, but if you can do those three things, you are the most evolved of our species. I was like, wow, and it's all energy. So it's like, if you're being efficient with your energy and effective, you know you have your North Star. What is your prayer you're trying to have answered? And that's your guiding thing each day. You know, you no longer really need inspiration. That's like a shower, but you have drive. It's like, you have why this is beating, and it's like, you follow your compass to get there. You maybe, we were talking earlier with having open flow versus planning. I like the idea spend 20% of my time planning, and then 80% open flow it. Just set the foundation, have the tools ready, make them, you got to trip over them, whatever. Like, just have those tools there as each day, and then you keep building on that. You're enjoying it, you're improving your time.
As long as you work on your goal a little bit.
Yes.
And the more you work on it, the faster it gets to your lap, that's for sure. But even a little bit, tiny pecks at your goal is so significant. And especially if it's for the right thing. I noticed, like, in here, we'll set an intention. Like, okay, this is our intention. We're going to acquire this thing. Let's say, we need a new bookcase, for example. How are we going to go about getting that? And so we're like, okay, let's put out a call to action, or something like that. Within a minute of even verbalizing it, in walks the bookcase through the front door. And it's just like, but it's a matter of practice. The more you practice working on your stuff, the more universe comes fast with it. Here you go. But you have to be a practitioner of it and constantly be working at your
belief, action,
stuff.
Intent. Thinking and praying on it is, I think that it sets the format, but you got to follow the language of the universe. Is
totally.
Emotion.
Because you can't give it all to them. You got to do a little bit of action here on Earth to make it feasible for the gods to help you out. Because they don't have thumbs.
We got the thumbs.
That's right.
We're down to do it. I like the saying, I didn't connect it this way. to the gods or spirit-wise, but it collides well, I think, in that when you really want to get something done, like it's like your car breaking down. If you're just telling people, hey, come push my car, as opposed to you're out there pushing your car, they're 1,000 times more likely to go help you.
Well.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people walk past other people. More people are probably implied to open their phone and YouTube somebody pushing their car.
Oh, I'm not doing that today.
Just saying.
There's definitely areas where people get peopled out. I got that in New York, definitely. It's like, I heard this saying, it's a city of victims. Everyone's had something else shit happen to them.
That makes sense, yeah.
So it's like,
that sucks.
maybe everyone's got their ideal balance of people per square foot and around you, But I like this city because it's got the night owl aspect, It's got the options.
I like, in Vegas has a lot of really people doing a lot of work to change. Like, it's so surprising how charitable and busy this city is helping each other. Even before the shooting, even before all that, like, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good here in Vegas. And you would never know it. Like, you would never know it if you weren't from here.
Because the city's so gigantic.
Yeah. They're doing
and
it
busy.
right next door.
Yeah.
Ren is writing a theatrical play, and it's going to be some dancing, but mostly vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just heard Pat Benatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's serious. It's
is he gifting it to somebody or what?
No, he's going to travel with it.
Okay.
With the students, but I think it's called Actions. Artists for Victims. I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll have artists, not just the present students, but other professionals come in. And then he has another one.
What kind of victims? What does that mean, artists for victims?
Well, we had, I guess about a month and a half ago, one of the students that we're very close to, we're like family there, her brother was shot on the corner, and the kids it was in the summer, and the kids were going to look for another graduation party. There's a group of fraternity boys, and there was a drive-by, and they shot him in the heart. So, we're not too happy about that. And there were probably about 500 or 600 people that came out to the vigil, and that got Ren really, really, it got us all excited.
A little fired up,
fired up.
To do something.
To do this,
Mm-hmm.
So, that won't be till later.
Cool.
I think that's January when that's happening. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I think art and music, that's how we decorate time and space. So if we can articulate what we're going through and it truly moves someone, that's medicine.
Absolutely.
And then if you empower them, and everything's getting more and more automated these days, so it's like the creative aspects of humanity, I think our creativity or adaptability are our two greatest, that's why we're here. I mean, that's our best skill set. So if we can tap into that, especially when we're finally going to have livable wages. That was the definition back then. It's like, you're not supposed to be feeling like you're drowning every week and you're working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be that way. Like, you're still under just evolved slavery. But I decided, so I left college to teach myself, because I was teaching myself more, and I wasn't bad in debt. So then I was like, ask the right questions, and then follow up. Like, it's so much more powerful to ask a really good question than get a really good question or answer, as opposed to, I got 100 okay ones, and no, it's the effectiveness and the efficiency brought together.
Knowing the right questions is way more important than knowing the answers.
Yeah. And they keep beating each other.
Yep.
And
because they just lead to more questions. Once you get the answer, you're like, oh, well, but what about this? You just threw me for a loop, because it's fun. Learning from people is fun, too. I've learned so much this past year, being in here.
I'm so excited with the podcast. Just talking to...
Totally.
Not just podcasting, but just the people that come in here, everybody has such a unique, interesting culture, family, background, upbringing, current job, whatever. It's just everybody is so fucking awesome. And it's great because they do, they all come in here and they're just so blown away by Happy Earth Market and the uncomfortable hugs that they get, and then they just open up and then feel love and give love, to where they weren't doing that when they walked in. So it's so fucking neat to be in a space like this. all the time.
I truly think we're here to give and receive love, and people, we almost get afraid of how powerful that is. For how powerful we could be if we lived in that with every breath.
Just gave it, and yep.
One of my favorite pieces ever was, there's two of them, but it's a statue that got sent out to Standing Rock, and it's still there. Before I made the trip out to Vegas, I'm also helping a single mom get out to Oregon, and I want to sponsor her to make baby food hummus and smoothies and salsa. It's like, all right, if you can do that, she wants to make a sanctuary out, like just a safe space for people, and do that out in Oregon. So I'm helping her get out there, and hopefully within the next month or two, her baby's with the grandparents. But before coming out to Vegas, we stopped at Standing Rock. I hadn't been there in 2 years. It's like just to see the life overgrow, like everything's overgrown now. Then hiking through it, getting up to the top of the sacred stone hill, and then the Looking Without Fear statue. It's a big red man, and people still left offerings there. It's like this is like the one thing that was still around. They said they weren't going to bulldoze like the school and all that stuff on sacred stone, because again, it's on native land. They still did it, you know. But that one thing was still there. It's still staring at the pipeline and looking without fear. I guess there's another one it's either Mexico or Arizona by the same artist, but I was like, I needed to do that before coming out here, you know. I was like really grateful to and get to show my friend that too. She was never in a position to get to see Standing Rock, but so she got to see it as nature's reclaimed it. You know, it's still full of life, just in a different way.
Right.
And it's like, and this is a saying that, and the Artists for Victims concept, and I just overall it helped me with my dad's own passing. But nothing lasts, but nothing is lost. It's all just energy going through different forms. And an elder out there is like, whenever you miss your dad, go pray at the sacred fire. That night I dreamt of him. I was at my childhood house. I hear a knock on the door. It's him, but it was like as if he was in high school. He's got a photo album on his back. Shows me the photo album, and it's me and my sister growing up. And I remember my first dog, Ireland, and it was just a puppy in the pictures. And I remember the red collar, and I look up later, it had the same red collar. I was like, I don't remember that at all.
That's a super cool dream.
But he's just, keep on your path, keep following hard, I love you, I'm with you.
Oh, wow.
And we call Standing Rock Synchronicity City just because I think it's like when everyone around there walking on their path, it's constant.
Yeah.
It was like out there there's a video game called Fallout, or almost like Skyrim, but it was like, what's today's mission? Well, we got to find this person to get this thing to make that thing. Like, it was awesome. It was like, at the same time, it's like, all right, try not to freeze to death tonight. All right. It was just a trip, and
how fun.
It was a
great experience.
It was a spiritual boot camp. Like, it was like, but it was so beautiful. It was a twilight between love and fear. On the other side, you got these officers, and I had found after Thanksgiving, actually, it just felt right, and we actually built a bridge to go across the water to go pray at them when they're on top of those burial mounds. And I found when I just put my hands together, held my ground, looked him in the eyes, and just said, I love you. I want the best for you and your family. Come join us for Thanksgiving. Like, we, not me, essentially. Like, grown people wearing full Kevlar with their guns, they'd be like, it's like they were short-circuiting. They'd break formation. It's like, so they have the weapons, and yet they're the ones backing up and leaving. So, I mean, I brought that to the...
Kill them with love.
It's light to dark.
Scares the dark energy.
We see that all the time, man.
People, dark energy won't come in here.
Yeah.
They don't. They
No.
take a step. Either they peek their head in the door, or they'll take a step in and go, no. Turn around and go right back out the door. It's fun, and I'm grateful for it, because I don't want the dark energy in here.
No.
Just keep it outside.
Sometimes it comes and stays for a little while.
When it comes, it usually gets purged out.
Yep,
Like
purges itself out.
immediately.
Yeah.
Plant a good seed in the fertilizer,
Right.
keep your distance,
Yeah.
try not to get their shit in your cup. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I think it's love versus fear, truth versus ignorance, connection versus illusion. And to be able to tap into that at such a consistent level out there. It was like, it really was a twilight for like light and dark, love and fear.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah. The energies are completely strong on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
There was no middle grayness, I bet, out there
I mean,
with energy.
even with the weather out there, have you ever seen a blizzard with a lightning storm happening at the same time? Because I have. I was like,
I didn't know that was even possible.
they might have been doing some extra cloud spraying. Maybe that's the spirits, but
Yeah.
they call them the lightning spirits were here with us. Like, I was just like,
That's intense.
one of the probably my two favorite things I did out there were. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. I worked
Lightning
with.
comes from the ground.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you
It
guys were all there. Like,
usually takes heat.
well, I mean, does it? Who knows?
I could probably try to find a picture of it, but it was a trip.
That sounds amazing.
my two favorite things out there was the construction aspect and then firekeeping. Because, I mean, they kept the fire going for 10 months out there. Then when they put it out, because it was like, oh, we got some court thing in our favor. I think really just I think elders are the people that figured out like how to heal themselves. And I think you can be a 10-year-old elder if you like. I think that's the next generation we're posturing in if we do things right. But then there's olders and the ones saying that they're elders, and then they put the fire out, and those like the sacred fires are made when a prayer is meant to be answered. When you put it out, you just won 20 Super Bowls. Everyone's just like, we fucking did it. But you walk around camp and I was like, everyone's dog just died. It was like that was the vibe. So we ended up the Ochede Sakowin fire, which is the fire of the 7 councils. So it was the first time in 250 years the Sioux stopped fighting each other. And they came together for this, again, for the water, for the next generation. They put aside all the past warnings and whatever, like, this is what's important. But then they put that fire out, and then between Chase, Iron Eyes, and about 60 other of us, I brought ashes from the Ochede Sakowin fire over to about, I was like 30, 40 yards from that fire. And that was like our cultural, that was the heart of the camp. You wake up every morning, you go get coffee, you do your prayers with people, you go down to the water for a water ceremony. It was beyond beautiful. Had, a lot of amazing voices that would that became like just family, really. Good morning, Standing Rock. Like waking up every day to that with a smile. Like, all right, water ceremony, let's go. But so we dug another one, and I think Chase asked, what do we name this one? And we decided the People's Fire, Ochete Oyate. So I got to help dig that one, and I was actually firekeeper for that one. So on Christmas, we're expecting a blizzard. So everyone's like, all right, hunkered down. And I'm sitting there waiting for a blizzard to hit in front of this fire. Like, all right, tonight's going to be interesting. Like, it never came, though. We, like, all the prayers must either kept it away or whatever, fluke. But, like, that I kept the fire alive. The fire kept me alive. And, like, that, our species evolved around that. We're not really meant for sleeping all night long. We go hunt and gather all day, create stuff, come back home, make music, art, love, take a nap, dance into the night. We're so much far away from that, though, too. And just, again, that connection is that community.
We have obligations and jobs and alarm clocks to answer to and food to prepare for our families before school and after school and before, The
collective script right now is like a protocol for misery.
Totally.
They got 40% of people that say they're happy. Honestly, I think it's less than that, because it's like, just because your needs are you're comfortable, this doesn't mean you're happy. Like, happiness is a thing I think you can keep constantly building on, like a peace of mind. Whereas they're like, oh, well, I just finished paying off my car. It's been 2 years. Nice. Like, that car owned you for 2 years, not the other way around. And, but to be away from that, to be in a system where it's like, barter, be helpful, enjoy each other's company. Like, it would get too cold out at night time, so we'd always just go to the food hall. I'd play chess with all sorts of people. It was amazing. And roll cigarettes for them. How can I be helpful? Even when it's nighttime and we can't see anything outside, but we're here together. We come together. Food's another one that I'd love to see. Is like, that's a constant unifier.
Totally.
Food's great.
Yeah.
Love food. Who doesn't love food, though, right?
I loved, out in New York, if you're a veteran, actually, you don't have to pay for the licensing and certifications to do food truck vendors.
Oh, wow.
So I want to sponsor veterans to do that.
That's really cool. I wish Vegas would do that.
And then bring that idea to other places, too, because it's like, you get them hooked up with a Twitter setup, like, hey, we want some veteran burritos, come on down. It's like, all right, sweet. Personally, I want to do a coffee and ice cream. This Quaker lady took me in, and I lived in Brooklyn in this old Italian neighborhood 4.5 months after I lost everything at Saninoc. Like, I got them 3 times on video saying they weren't going to tow my car. I towed it anyway, roped off. How do you rip off both the bumpers? And I got it to the edge of the camp. Like, all my belongings were in there. Then they charged me $1,500 to get my stuff back. Like, all right.
Stuff.
Gotta adapt, I guess. Then I got invited to March with the Indigenous in D.C. That was amazing.
Wow.
Like, you see teepees all along the Washington Monument and stuff. And like, and then I met her there, and she gave me the space that I didn't even realize I needed. But that's when I got really into yoga. That's when I got really into developing the idea of making your own self-love curriculum. And then, what does it make a person? I'd say 4 pillars: mind, body, heart, soul. If you make a Venn diagram of that and spend at least 20 minutes in each of those circles, even if they're I think yoga hits all the above.
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
Like,
yeah, totally.
So that's a meta skill. The more of those you got, and then like more than you're like,
man, I love yoga.
So make me an app that does that. It may not have to be that format. I want people to be able to be versatile with it. You can call it self-improvement curriculum, whatever.
There's an app for that.
Yeah.
Right on,
There's an
man.
app for
Well, thank you guys. This has been awesome.
This has been really rad. This is not the conversation I thought I was going to have, so thank you for coming. That's amazing. I really appreciate it.
It was fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
So it's Planet Plus One.
Yep. It'll be planetplus1.org, and that is currently in development. And I'll be biking across California to, again, have more awesome conversations like this. And it's like, if we go about things to build a model from the get-go, everybody wins. It doesn't matter what happens to me or anybody, because it's like, if the idea is out there, it's done. And the way the website is built up, whatever your passion is, Planet Plus One is like, I want you to do it. I want you to give your gift every single day and continue to get better at giving your gift, because that shows how other people can do it for themselves as well, and it's contagious. Share the love.
Right.
Plus one good deed. It doesn't matter if it's make someone smile or build a beautiful company.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been another great episode of Happy Earth Market Podcast. I'll do all the sponsors later. Peace.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
you.